Hi guys. We're here today to talk about the All Dog Band. So I'm going to give a little mini class here on how we would actually start working with our dogs. Ember's here with me. She's going to be my demo dog. And then we'll actually start working with some of the other dogs here. We do have some different instruments with us. And just so most of you guys out there know, the difference here is some of us have taught our dogs to use their feet for the piano and stuff like that. But because of the painting badge, where the dogs are using their feet to paint with, their legs, in this badge we actually want to teach the dogs to use like their nose. All right, they could use their mouth by biting a horn, picking up a tambourine and shaking it. So that's kind of what we need to do with our dogs. So with Ember, she does know target and touch. She knows, yes, good job. So because of that, I've chosen to use the horn to start with this morning. And what I'm going to be doing is using it to get her to actually bop it with her nose. I don't really want her to bite it because it is a rubber and she loves to chew on balls and it would take her a second to put a hole in it. So my goal is to actually just have her honk it or push it with her nose. So to start that, this can be a little bit of a shaping. And what I mean by that is instead of telling her to do this, yes, you're very excited, I'm actually just going to put it in front of her. And if she touches it, I'm going to click and treat. Now, like I said, she likes to push balls and stuff around, so for her, this is really easy. I'm assuming you can see this on the film? Mm-hmm. Sit. Good job. And I don't know if you guys noticed, I was actually a little slow with my clicker. Now what I'd like to start doing, sit. Hold on, you're tangling. Alright, the reason Ember is on leash today is because we do have one dog here who is not necessarily great with very high energy dogs, and so I don't want Ember running around, but she's going to play with me instead. Now you saw that I have no problem getting her to actually honk the horn. But my next step is I'd like to be able to put it on cue. So my next step from here is as she's doing it, I'll actually give her whatever cue I'm using. In this case, it is going to be horn, or honk. Actually, I'm going to be using honk. No, I'll use horn. I'm going to use horn. Horn. Good job. So now as she's going for it, horn. Good job. I'm going to start bringing in my cue word. Horn. Good job. You keep it tangled up there. Now I did not ask her for that one, so I did not want to click and treat. But now what I want to do is I would like her to start playing with more than just one honk. So hopefully that I'm just going to put it there and kind of hold it there, and I'm going to see if she'll do it more than once. If she does it a second time, I'm actually going to click and treat for the second one versus the first. Good job. So there you saw I just held it, and she went honked, and she did it twice. Good job. So again, now I held it there. She knows what their game is. She wants her treat. And that time I got her to do it 3 times without saying anything. And if I wanted to, like I say, we start playing musical instruments. Sit. I can now start telling her to wait, 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 honk. Then I'll start working it a little bit more on command now. Does anybody have any questions so far with that?
Nope. Good so far.
Now the other one, this may be a little bit different for Ember. She doesn't really know how to do this one. And through shaping, I can kind of just, I should have actually clicked for that. I don't know if I wasn't ready. Now she actually started to kind of bite towards it, which isn't really what I want, okay? But the fact that she touched it, if I was a little bit quicker, so as soon as she would have touched it and I clicked, I would have been a little bit better off. Now you can see she's going to be a little over-exuberant for this one. So I'm going to probably start holding it. And she's still, like I say, she's used to picking up stuff. So I'm going to have to work with her in terms of, I don't want her biting it. I really want her to use her nose. Now that time she actually did push it, so that was really good. So I was able to just to click for it. Now that time she pushed some extra buttons. Now she's still biting it a little bit, so I'm going to have to work on that. But it would be the same principle as how I got into the horn. Instead of just hitting it once, I'm going to want to start hitting it more than once. So I would go through that same principle. Anybody's questions there so far? Our next step, actually starting to work with our dogs now, is to actually earn your badge. Again, you always want to do this on positive-based training techniques. Work with your dog. Make sure your dog's not afraid of the noise that the instrument's going to make. I mean, if it's afraid of the horn, you may not want to use a horn. They actually do have little electric guitars that are kind of push button, no strings. That works. The tambourines, picking up a tambourine and shaking it works. So think about those types of items. But remember, okay, what happens if my dog is afraid of it? So you may actually want to start, the dog may be 20 feet away. Amber, leave it. And then you may start the instrument in a different room, just so the dog knows, and kind of hears it, and kind of work towards them. Let them sniff the instrument, make sure they're okay with it. And be really careful with your instruments, because they do cost money. Try not to let the dog really play with it and abuse it and bite it. I mean, pick it up and put it away, so you always want to protect your instruments. And slowly work your dog into whatever you decide to play. Now, when it actually comes time to earn your badge, the dog is going to have to play the instrument in 3 different locations. 2 of them before you do the band. So in this case, maybe we'd go to a different room, or we'd go outside, and then we could come back. And then the dogs have to be able to play an instrument while other dogs are playing the instrument. So that way, it's basically showing that your dog is interested in you while the other dogs are playing with their parents, their guardians, and we can all kind of play the band together. Any questions, guys? So you can go ahead and stop filming for a second. Alright, Mary, so next we're going to start working with Ranger. Alright, you saw how I started doing that in the class, and I know you've been working with Ranger for a long time. Do you have any questions before you kind of get started with this?
And usually he bites the horn. That's the only difference, that he might bite it instead of pushing it with his nose.
Well, it's your goal, depending on what you want to do with your dog.
Okay.
The only reason I don't like my dogs biting it is because they're not really that strong, and they could puncture holes through them.
He hasn't yet.
And if you ruin my horn, you owe me $20. No.
Well, I'll give you one.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
Okay.
But it didn't cost me $20.
But it's going to cost me that, huh? Okay. Touch. Touch. Good.
Yep. Now, whatever you're using, if you're using a verbal marker or you're using a clicker, when Ranger touches it, even though there's no sound, I would be clicking it. Good job.
Yeah, buddy.
Now in that, like I said, if you wanted him to touch, he did touch it those first 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
You could have clicked for that behavior versus the one you clicked for was actually more of a mouthing behavior.
Good
Nice job.
job, buddy.
Very good.
Good job, buddy. Touch. Touch. Good. Good. Good boy. Ready, touch. Good. I'm slow with the button.
Yep. That's okay.
Ready, touch.
I think Dog Scout people need 3 hands.
Touch. Good. Touch.
So again, I don't want to push the time frame. I mean, Amber's knows touch and stuff really well, so she gets this, and she's played with the horn a little bit before. This may take you 5 minutes. It could take you a couple days, even a couple of weeks, depending on how much you practice it. But you are getting Ranger to actually do really good at touching it. All right? And then your next step, once that gets going, is you're actually not going to want to click for the touch.
Okay.
All right? Ranger knows how to touch. Now you're going to want to wait until he kind of really gets into it and makes noise. And then you would be
Good boy.
So now that would be the next step. Because you want more than a touch, you actually want them to make the sound. And again, you're going to have to know your dog and how far you want to go.
He knows how to do it.
Okay.
He's just being lazy. More.
Nice.
Boy.
Very good. So any questions on teaching him that use the horn?
No.
Cool.
Horn's good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Our next step is we're actually going to work with Bailey on playing the piano. This could actually be a little bit difficult for Bailey because of the fact Bailey actually has some trick titles, and we had originally taught this using the paws. So he actually stands up, and you can see he's already trying to do it. He already plays this. But for this badge, we may either A, switch instruments with Bailey and not use the piano, but we wanted to just give it a little bit of a try to see if we can actually get him to nose it versus using his paws. So we're actually, and when we do this, because now we're using a different methodology, instead of no paws, we're using the nose. If you used to use the word like piano or play, you would actually want to change your cue, because you're technically teaching your dog a whole new trick or new item. All right? So you want to consider that when you start doing this, that you're actually going to want to use a different training technique and a different cue word because of the fact you've already trained it using the paws.
Okay.
All right? Now, Bailey does know touch, correct?
Correct.
So you may actually, which he touches with his nose, he does a target stick. You may actually want to start putting your finger down a little bit and start saying touch. And here, your timing is going to be really critical. The second he even goes towards it, I mean, he doesn't physically have to touch it the first time. But if his head starts going towards the keys, I would probably click and treat because of the fact that he now knows it with his paws. All right, and I may just kind of have him go towards it, you click and treat, then he finally sniffs it and smells it, then I would click and treat, and then over time, and again, it could be 10 minutes, it could be a couple weeks, then once he actually starts hitting it with his nose and making sound, then I would actually go ahead and wait and click and treat for that, okay? So whenever you're ready.
Touch.
Good job.
Good job, Bailey. Good job. This is going to be hard. Okay. Yeah, sweet. Touch. Good boy. Well, he touched my hand.
Yep, he did.
Well.
And I would,
Touch.
there you go. I would be really trying to be careful not to click for anything where his legs get up on there. There you go.
Good boy. Okay, good boy. Touch. Whoop.
Yep,
Shoot.
that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
He's so fast. Okay. Touch. Touch.
You didn't click, did you? Oh, okay.
So hard. He's doing very good though, playing.
Touch. No. No. Touch. Good boy.
So what you may need to start doing is actually bringing your hand down lower. There, click for that.
Oh, too late.
Yep, that's okay. But because of the fact your hand was up here, you were actually getting him to raise his legs. So I would keep your hands almost even.
Touch. You mean?
Even with the keyboard, so that he can physically touch the keyboard. We want him to stop touching
So
your
like
hand.
this?
Yep.
Okay. Touch. Good boy. Oh, that was good, Jim.
Yep. So that way it'll keep him lower instead of jumping up.
Touch. So how do I get him to?
What you're eventually going to start doing is maybe even just kind of putting your finger. Bailey.
Oh, look at him.
Oh, that's okay. See? There we go. There we go.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, sorry for stealing your dog.
no problem.
So, and I'm definitely going to feed him off of the piano, okay?
Yep.
If he jumped up like that. So go ahead. Good.
He loves playing it the other way.
Yeah, I know he
Come
does.
here. Bailey,
Go ahead, just give him ask him for a simple trick and give him a treat just to refocus back on you.
Bailey, sit. Good boy.
Yeah, because he had just gotten focused on me.
Bailey, sit. Sit.
All right, so this would be, and like I say, this may be the decision at the point where you can try this for a couple of days or even just 1 or 2 sessions, and you may determine that this isn't really what you want to do it for the band, and you may want to say go for a tambourine or a horn or a guitar, just because of the fact he does so well with his paws on this instrument, but for the badge you may want to just use a different instrument altogether and not retrain this. It's something you would need to think about as the team. Any questions on that?
Now, on the trick title, the 101 trick, can he use his paws?
Yep, it doesn't matter what you do.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so I say, you may not, I just wanted to do this for filming purposes, showing, training, a new cue, and a new way of doing something, even though the dog has learned something. So I just wanted to film that reason.
Okay.
And I don't want to push him doing this, as you may not actually want him to do it that way.
Okay.
All right? Thank you. Okay.